It starts like any other commute home. Late afternoon traffic, sun dipping low, radio humming softly. Marcus Hayes, a sharp software engineer known for his calm demeanor, is driving his meticulously maintained sedan, thinking about dinner. Until flashing lights erupt in his rearview mirror. A routine traffic stop turns sinister. Officer Davenport emerges, radiating suspicion, his questions laced with barely concealed prejudice. A minor interaction escalates based on nothing but the driver's skin color. Davenport, feeling challenged, decides to teach Marcus a lesson, writing a scathing, entirely fabricated report, citing reckless driving and insubordination. He thinks he's just put another arrogant black man in his place, secured his authority with lies on paper. But what Officer Davenport doesn't know, what his blinding arrogance makes impossible to conceive, is that his entire interaction, every biased word, every fabricated claim, wasn't just recorded, it was live-streamed in crystal-clear 4K, complete with audio, directly to a secure cloud server by the state-of-the-art dashcam Marcus installed himself. Davenport just created official lies against a man holding irrefutable broadcasted truth. A storm of digital exposure, departmental reckoning, and undeniable justice is about to break. Stick around. You won't believe how the footage flips everything. Hey, let us know where you're watching from today. Drop your city, state, or country in the comments. We love seeing our community connect over these stories. Ready to find out exactly how it all went down? Buckle up, let's dive right in. The setting sun painted the highway asphalt gold as Marcus Hayes navigated the familiar route home. His mind was already shifting gears from debugging code to deciding between takeout Thai or attempting that new pasta recipe. His silver sedan, a testament to his love for clean design and technology, purred along smoothly in moderate traffic. He signaled properly, checked his mirrors, maintained a safe following distance, the habits of a careful, methodical driver, which made the sudden eruption of police lights flashing aggressively behind him all the more jarring. Marcus felt the familiar knot tighten in his stomach, the one that decades of lived experience as a black man in America had taught him to expect, even when he'd done nothing wrong. He glanced at his speedometer, exactly the speed limit. He checked his mirrors again, no erratic driving, no obvious violations. Sighing inwardly, he signaled and pulled over smoothly onto the shoulder, ensuring ample room for the officer. He turned off his radio, rolled down his window part way, and placed his hands visibly on the steering wheel at the 10 and 2 position, reciting the mental checklist drilled into him since adolescence. Officer Davenport approached the car with a deliberate slowness, hand hovering near his sidearm, eyes obscured by mirrored sunglasses despite the fading light. He was older, thick-set, with a face that seemed permanently set in a scowl of disapproval. He didn't ask for license and registration immediately. Instead, he leaned down slightly, peering into the car, his gaze lingering on Marcus, then sweeping over the clean, uncluttered interior. "Evening," Davenport said, his voice flat, devoid of politeness. "Know why I pulled you over?" "No, officer, I don't believe I do," Marcus replied calmly, keeping his voice level and respectful, though his heart rate had kicked up. Davenport straightened, up slightly, tapping a thick finger on the roof of the car. "Saw you weaving back there, lane to lane. Looked like you were in an awful hurry." Marcus frowned slightly. Weaving. He'd changed lanes once, miles back, with ample signal and space. "Officer, with all due respect, I changed lanes once quite a while ago, but I certainly wasn't weaving or speeding." Davenport's jaw tightened. He clearly didn't appreciate being contradicted. "License, registration, and proof of insurance," he demanded curtly. Marcus slowly reached for the glove compartment, narrating his movements. "Okay, officer, reaching for my registration and insurance now." He retrieved the documents, then slowly reached for his wallet in his back pocket. Reaching. "For my wallet now, officer." He handed the documents and his license through the partially open window. Davenport took them, barely glancing at Marcus, focusing instead on scanning the documents with exaggerated scrutiny under the dimming light. "This car yours?" he asked, though the registration clearly stated it was. "Yes, officer. Registered in my name," Marcus confirmed, Where you headed in such a rush? Davenport pressed, ignoring Marcus's previous denial of speeding or weaving. Just heading home from work, officer. No rush at all. Marcus maintained his calm. He noticed the small, discreet blue light on his dashboard. The custom-installed 4K dashcam system was recording. As always, not just recording locally, but simultaneously live-streaming encrypted video and audio to his private cloud storage via its dedicated cellular connection, a feature he, as a tech enthusiast wary of potential disputes, had specifically configured. Davenport seemed to find Marcus's calm composure irritating. Perhaps he expected anger, nervousness, some sign of guilt or deference that would confirm his preconceived notions. You got something to hide? Seem awful tense for someone just driving home, Davenport sneered softly. Just trying to be cooperative. Officer, Marcus replied evenly. Davenport finally handed the documents back, but his expression was hard. All right, I'm letting you off with a warning for the weaving this time, he said, though there had been no weaving. But I'm also citing you for failure to maintain lane properly, and, let's add, obstructing governmental administration for that attitude. He pulled out his citation pad, his pen scratching aggressively. He was fabricating violations on the spot, clearly angered by Marcus's refusal to be intimidated, or admit fault where none existed. Marcus watched him, silent now, his mind calculating. The injustice burned, but arguing further felt dangerous. He knew what was happening. This wasn't about traffic safety, it was about power, control, and prejudice. He saw the deliberate creation of a false narrative happening right before his eyes. Back in the relative sanctuary of his patrol car, Officer Davenport let out a huff of air, a self-satisfied smirk playing on his lips as he watched Marcus Hayes carefully pull back onto the highway. Arrogant punk, he thought, driving a fancy car, acting all calm and collected, thinking he was better than everyone else. Davenport hated that type. He especially hated it when they acted like that. People needed to be reminded of their place, reminded who was in charge. That quiet defiance, the refusal to just accept his authority without question, it grated on him. He looked down at the citation book, then switched over to the electronic reporting system on his patrol car's laptop. The warning for weaving wasn't enough. He needed to make sure this guy felt it, make sure there was a solid record reflecting his problematic behavior. He began typing the official report, embellishing freely, transforming the routine, uneventful drive he'd barely observed into a near catastrophe averted only by his timely intervention. Subject vehicle observed driving erratically, he typed, weaving across multiple lanes without signaling, posing a clear danger to other motorists. Line number 1. Initiated traffic stop. Driver, Marcus Hayes, initially failed to yield, requiring extended use of lights and siren. Line number 2, Marcus had pulled over immediately. Upon contact, driver displayed argumentative and obstructive behavior, Davenport continued, translating Marcus's calm denials into official insubordination. Appeared nervous and evasive when questioned about destination and reason for erratic driving. Line number 3. Marcus had been calm, direct, and utterly consistent. Davenport paused, considering adding something more severe. A faint, unsubstantiated smell of marijuana, a claim of furtive movements. He decided against it, too hard to prove without a search he knew he had no grounds for. But the fabricated moving violations and the obstructing charge were enough. They'd create a headache for Hayes, court dates, fines, points on his license, maybe insurance hikes. More importantly, they established a documented record of Hayes being a problem driver, justifying the stop and potentially bolstering Davenport's credibility if Hayes dared to complain. He finished the report, adding a concluding sentence. Driver issued citations for failure to maintain lane and obstructing governmental administration. Verbal warning given for reckless driving. Driver released after displaying slightly improved demeanor. He reread it, nodding to himself. Solid. Plausible. It painted Hayes as the problem, himself as the patient professional officer managing a difficult situation. He digitally signed and submitted the report, the electronic record instantly becoming part of the official system. He felt a grim sense of satisfaction, Lesson delivered, authority asserted. He pulled away from the shoulder, the incident already fading in his mind. Just another encounter with another difficult citizen put firmly in their place. He never gave the silent, forward-facing lens on Hayes's dashboard a second thought. Why? Would he? It was just another car, another stop, another report filed, business as usual. Marcus Hayes drove the remaining miles home in a state of controlled fury. His hands gripped the steering wheel tightly, his knuckles white, but his breathing remained even, his driving impeccable. The injustice of the stop, the blatant fabrication of the report by Officer Davenport, churned inside him. It wasn't just the lies, the potential fines, or the points on his license. It was the casual abuse of power, the assumption of guilt based on nothing but his race, the attempt to intimidate him into submission. It was the wearying familiarity of it all. Pulling into his garage, he cut the engine and sat for a long moment in the sudden silence, the events of the past hour replaying vividly in his mind. Davenport's condescending tone, the fabricated weaving, the tacked-on charge for attitude. He felt the familiar frustration, the sense of helplessness that often accompanied such encounters. But this time, beneath the anger, there was something else, a cold, hard certainty. Davenport had lied and Marcus had proof, irrefutable proof. He went inside, dropped his keys on the counter, and headed straight for his home office. Booting up his custom-built desktop, he navigated to the secure cloud portal linked to his car's dashcam system. The interface was sleek, professional, something he'd refined himself. He located the timestamp corresponding to the traffic stop. There it was, a high-definition video file, complete with crystal-clear multi-channel audio captured from both inside and outside the vehicle. He clicked play. The footage was stunningly clear, the 4K resolution capturing every detail, even in the fading light. It showed his smooth, uneventful driving prior to the stop. It showed the police lights appearing abruptly behind him, his immediate safe pullover. It captured Officer Davenport's approach, his face clearly visible, his hand near his weapon. Most importantly, the high-fidelity audio captured every single word exchanged. Davenport's initial accusation of weaving, Marcus's calm, polite denials, Davenport's escalating irritation, his condescending remarks. "You got something to hide?" Seem awful tense. His own voice steady and respectful throughout. The final blatant fabrication of the charges. It was all there, time-stamped, undeniable. The video stream even included GPS data, confirming his speed and lane position throughout the entire event, directly contradicting Davenport's claims. Marcus watched the entire 15-minute interaction, his initial anger solidifying into cold resolve. Davenport hadn't just bent the rules, he had shattered them, filing a false official report, likely perjuring himself in the process. And he had done it with such smug confidence, utterly oblivious to the silent digital witness recording his every lie. The live stream hadn't just recorded. It had broadcasted truth in real time to a secure server, creating an unalterable record the moment it happened. He downloaded a copy of the footage, saving it to multiple secure locations. He then considered his next steps. He could release the footage publicly, let it go viral, ignite a social media firestorm. It was tempting, but Marcus wasn't impulsive. He was methodical. He believed in using systems, even flawed ones, to achieve accountability when possible. A viral video might bring temporary outrage, but a formal complaint backed by undeniable evidence, submitted through official channels first, might bring more lasting, systemic consequences for Davenport, and perhaps even force a review of departmental practices. He drafted a concise, factual email to his attorney, summarizing the incident and attaching a secure link to the cloud-hosted video file. Subject: unlawful traffic stop and false reporting. Officer Davenport. Date, time. He explained the situation clearly, referencing the fabricated charges and the existence of the complete video and audio recording. He requested advice on the best way to proceed, filing a formal complaint with Internal Affairs, pursuing legal action, or both. He hit send, the email disappearing into the digital ether. He felt a grim satisfaction. Officer Davenport thought he held all the power on that highway shoulder. He was about to learn about the power of objective, high-definition, live-streamed truth. The digital witness was ready to testify. The following morning, Marcus Hayes, armed with legal advice and a copy of the damning footage on a secure thumb drive, walked into the downtown police headquarters. The building itself felt imposing, all granite and official seals, designed, perhaps, to subtly intimidate citizens seeking redress. Marcus, however, walked with a calm, purposeful stride, his demeanor professional, betraying none of the lingering anger from the previous evening. He approached the front desk, manned by a bored-looking desk sergeant who seemed more interested in his lukewarm coffee than the citizens approaching him. "Good morning," Marcus said politely but firmly. "I need to file a formal complaint against one of your officers regarding an incident that occurred yesterday evening." The desk sergeant sighed audibly, a sound heavy with practiced indifference. "All right," he mumbled, pushing a generic complaint form across the scratched counter. "Fill this out. Be specific. Dates, times, location, officer's name or badge number." "If you got it." He didn't make eye contact, already reaching back for his coffee mug. Marcus took the form. "I have the officer's name, Davenport, and the approximate time and location," he stated clearly. "I also have complete video and audio evidence of the entire encounter, including the falsification of the official report he filed. That got the sergeant's attention. He lowered his mug slowly, looking at Marcus properly for the first time, a flicker of surprise mixed with skepticism in his eyes. "Video evidence," he repeated. "Yes," Marcus confirmed, "from a high-definition, multi-angle dashcam system. It includes time-stamped GPS data corroborating my driving behavior, which directly contradicts Officer Davenport's official report and the citations he issued." He kept his tone factual, avoiding any hint of accusation or emotion, simply stating the existence of the evidence. The sergeant hesitated, seemingly unsure how to proceed. This wasn't the typical vague complaint-based on he said, she said. This involved concrete, verifiable evidence potentially contradicting an officer's sworn report. He cleared his throat. "Okay, well, you fill out the form first. Detail everything. You can mention the video evidence in your statement. Someone from Internal Affairs will review it, eventually." The implication was clear. "Don't expect to be." Swift response. Marcus nodded curtly, took the form and found a seat in the sterile waiting area. He filled out the complaint meticulously, detailing the time, location, Officer Davenport's name, the lack of any actual traffic violation, the officer's biased questioning and demeanor, the fabricated charges cited, and finally, the existence of the complete 4K video and audio recording with GPS data proving his innocence and the officer's dishonesty. He wrote clearly, concisely, focusing on facts, referencing specific times within the potential video timeline. Once completed, he returned the form to the desk sergeant, who accepted it with another non-committal grunt and placed it into a wire basket already overflowing with other papers, complaints, reports, bureaucratic detritus. There was no sense of urgency, no indication that this complaint, despite the mention of explosive evidence, would be treated any differently than the others. Marcus received a stamped copy with a case number for his records. "Internal Affairs will contact you if they need further information," the sergeant recited mechanically, already turning his attention back to his coffee. "Could take several weeks, even months depending on caseload." Marcus simply nodded again. "Thank you for your time, Sergeant." He turned and walked out of the police headquarters, back into the morning sunlight. He hadn't expected immediate action at the front desk. He knew the system often moved slowly, sometimes deliberately so, but he had filed the report. He had put the department on notice. And he held the digital witness. He knew the waiting game was part of the process, but he also knew that once Internal Affairs actually reviewed the footage Officer Davenport had no idea existed, the game would change. Dramatically. The tension was building silently, digitally. 2 weeks passed with no word from Internal Affairs, beyond a boilerplate confirmation letter acknowledging receipt of Marcus's complaint. It was exactly the kind of bureaucratic silence he had anticipated, yet it still felt frustrating. He knew Officer Davenport was still out there on patrol, potentially subjecting other drivers to the same biased treatment, protected by the slow-moving wheels of the internal review process. His lawyer advised patience, suggesting they wait for IA's initial finding before considering releasing the footage publicly or filing a civil suit. Then, finally, the call came. A Detective Miller, no relation to Brian from previous stories, from Internal Affairs requested Marcus come in for a formal interview regarding his complaint against Officer Davenport. Marcus agreed, confirming a time for the following afternoon. He arrived promptly, dressed professionally, carrying only a slim briefcase containing his tablet and the encrypted thumb drive with the dashcam footage. He was led to a small, windowless interview room, sparsely furnished with a metal table and a few chairs. Detective Miller, a weary-looking man in his late 40s, offered a curt nod and gestured for him to sit. Another IA officer, younger and silent, sat in the corner, presumably to take notes. "Mr. Hayes," Detective Miller began, opening a thin file folder containing Marcus's complaint and likely Davenport's official report. "We're reviewing your complaint regarding the traffic stop conducted by Officer Davenport on the evening of date. Officer Davenport's report states he observed you weaving erratically, failing to maintain your lane, and that you were argumentative and obstructive during the stop, leading to the citations issued." He summarized the official narrative flatly. "Detective Miller," Marcus replied calmly, meeting the investigator's gaze directly. "That report is false. Every substantive claim in it regarding my driving behavior and my demeanor is demonstrably untrue." Detective Miller sighed, a familiar sound of skepticism. "Mr. Hayes, it's not uncommon for citizens to disagree with an officer's assessment of a traffic stop." "This isn't a disagreement, Detective," Marcus interrupted politely but firmly. "It's a fabrication, and I don't expect you to simply take my word for it over that of a sworn officer." He paused, letting the statement hang in the air. This was the moment. He opened his briefcase and placed his tablet on the table, angling it slightly towards the investigators. "Fortunately," he continued, his voice remaining level, "we don't have to rely on conflicting accounts or subjective interpretations." He tapped the screen, bringing up a file manager. The entire incident, from several minutes before Officer Davenport initiated the stop until well after he drove away, was recorded by a multi-angle, 4K resolution dashcam system in my vehicle. Detective Miller's eyebrows raised slightly. Dashcams were increasingly common, but usually low-res, often without reliable audio. "The system," Marcus added, anticipating the next question, "records high-fidelity audio from both inside and outside the vehicle. It also embeds time-stamped GPS data, accurate to within inches, logging my speed and precise lane position throughout the entire duration." He looked directly at Detective Miller. "Furthermore, Detective, the footage wasn't just recorded locally. It was simultaneously live-streamed via a dedicated cellular connection and encrypted to a secure cloud server the moment it happened. The recording is unalterable, has verifiable metadata, and captures Officer Davenport's actions and words, as well as my own, in incontrovertible detail." He tapped the screen again, queuing up the video file. "The footage clearly shows I was not weaving, not speeding, and maintained my lane perfectly. It captures my calm and cooperative responses. It captures Officer Davenport's escalating hostility and his explicit decision to issue citations for violations that did not occur, including obstructing governmental administration based solely on my refusal to falsely admit wrongdoing." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. "Would you like to view the unedited time-stamped footage now, Detective? Or shall I provide your office with secure access to the cloud archive?" The room fell silent. Detective Miller stared, at the tablet screen, then at Marcus, then back at the screen. The weary skepticism on his face was replaced by a look of dawning shock, then deep professional concern. The younger officer in the corner stopped taking notes, his pen hovering over the pad. They both realized in that instant the potential magnitude of what Marcus Hayes had just revealed. A citizen complaint backed by vague claims was one thing. A complaint backed by verifiable, high-definition, live-streamed video and audio evidence, directly contradicting an officer's sworn report. That was a ticking time bomb for Officer Davenport and potentially the entire department. The digital witness had arrived, and its testimony promised to be devastating. Detective Miller leaned forward slowly, his eyes fixed on the tablet screen where Marcus had paused the video preview. The implications of Marcus's calm statements hit him with the force of a physical blow. 4K video, high-fidelity audio, GPS. Data, live-streamed to the cloud, unalterable. This wasn't just a dashcam video, it was a prosecutor's dream and an internal affairs nightmare rolled into one. "You're certain about the live-stream aspect, Mr. Hayes?" Miller asked, his voice losing its earlier weariness, replaced by a sharp edge of urgency. A local recording could potentially be disputed, edited, or corrupted. A real-time encrypted cloud backup was virtually unassailable. "Absolutely certain." "Detective," Marcus confirmed. "It's a custom system I designed and installed myself. The stream uploads segmented data packets continuously. Even if the physical camera were destroyed during an incident, the preceding footage up to that point would already be secure on the server. The metadata logs are cryptographically signed." He used the technical terms deliberately, letting Miller understand he wasn't just a driver with a gadget. He understood the technology intimately. Miller exchanged a quick, grim look with the younger IA officer. They both knew what this meant. If Hayes's claims about the footage content were true, and his calm certainty suggested they were, Officer Davenport hadn't just made a bad stop or shown poor judgment. He had actively falsified an official report, potentially committed perjury, and done so while being recorded in undeniable detail. "All right, Mr. Hayes," Miller said, his tone shifting completely. The skepticism was gone, replaced by serious, focused professionalism. "We need to see that footage, now. Can you play it for us here?" Marcus nodded. "Of course." He tapped the screen, and the video began to play. The quality was, as promised, impeccable. The wide-angle forward view showed Marcus's steady driving. The interior camera showed his calm demeanor, hands on the wheel. The audio captured the ambient noise, then the clear sound of the approaching siren. Marcus's immediate signal and safe pullover. Then came Officer Davenport's approach, his face clearly visible, his voice captured with startling clarity. The two IA investigators watched, their expressions growing increasingly stony as the interaction unfolded exactly as Marcus had described, and in stark contrast to Davenport's written report. They heard Davenport's baseless accusation of weaving. They heard Marcus's polite factual denials. They heard Davenport's escalating hostility, his condescending remarks, his clear annoyance at Marcus's refusal to be intimidated. They saw Marcus remain calm, providing documents slowly, narrating his actions. And then they heard Davenport, his voice tight with anger, explicitly state he was issuing citations for violations that the video and embedded GPS data clearly showed had not occurred. They heard him invent the obstructing charge, based on nothing more than Marcus maintaining his innocence. When the footage showed Davenport walking back to his patrol car after issuing the false citations, Marcus paused the video. "The remainder shows me driving away safely. Officer Davenport leaving the scene and continues until I arrived home," he stated calmly. Detective Miller sat back in his chair, rubbing his temples. He looked visibly stressed. "Mr. Hayes," he said after a moment of heavy silence, "I need to secure a copy of this immediately, and we need to verify the cloud backup." "Of course," Marcus replied. He produced the encrypted thumb drive. "This contains the full unedited file from the local recording." He then navigated on his tablet to the secure cloud portal, showing them the interface, the file listing with its verifiable timestamp matching the incident. "I can grant temporary, view-only access to this specific file to an official departmental email address right now if you provide one." Miller nodded curtly to the younger officer, who quickly provided his official email. Marcus typed it in, configured the permissions, and sent the secure link. The younger officer confirmed receipt on his own device almost instantly. "Thank you, Mr. Hayes," Detective Miller said, his voice grave. "This changes the nature of the investigation significantly. We will be reviewing this immediately. You may be required to provide further statements, potentially testify in disciplinary hearings, or even criminal proceedings. "I understand, Detective," Marcus said. "I'm prepared to cooperate fully. My only interest is in ensuring Officer Davenport is held accountable for his actions and his false report." "Believe me, Mr. Hayes," Miller said, meeting his eyes with a new level of seriousness, "based on what I've just seen, accountability is precisely what we will be pursuing." He knew with sickening certainty that Officer Davenport's career was likely over. The digital witness had delivered a knockout blow. The unraveling had begun. The moment Marcus Hayes left the Internal Affairs interview room, Detective Miller set a series of urgent actions into motion. The atmosphere within the IA unit shifted from routine investigation to crisis management. The first step was undeniable. Officer Frank Davenport needed to be pulled off the street immediately. Miller contacted Davenport's supervising sergeant directly, bypassing lower channels, ordering him to locate Davenport via GPS, instruct him to return to the precinct immediately under a non-specific pretext, and crucially, to ensure his body cam, if worn and activated, and patrol car systems were secured upon arrival without alerting him to the true reason. The potential for Davenport to try and alter his own logs or body cam footage, however unlikely given the dashcam evidence, couldn't be risked. Simultaneously, Miller escalated the situation directly to his own commander and the department's legal counsel. He summarized the explosive nature of the evidence: high-definition video and audio, GPS data, live-streamed backup, directly contradicting Davenport's sworn report and demonstrating clear falsification and bias. The legal implications were immediate and severe. Potential criminal charges against Davenport for perjury and official misconduct, a high probability of a significant civil lawsuit from Marcus Hayes, and a public relations nightmare if, or more likely when, the footage leaked. Within the hour, Officer Davenport arrived back at the precinct, swaggering slightly, likely expecting a routine end-of-shift debrief. He was met instead by his sergeant and two stony-faced internal affairs investigators, including Miller. He was informed curtly that he was being placed on immediate administrative leave pending a critical investigation. His badge and service weapon were confiscated on the spot. His request for an explanation was met with a curt, "You'll be briefed by IA and your union representative shortly." Davenport's face registered shock, then confusion, then a dawning anger as he was escorted to an empty interrogation room, stripped of his authority and left to stew, still utterly unaware of the digital evidence that had sealed his fate. Detective Miller and his team began the formal process. They secured Davenport's patrol car, downloading its MVR footage and logs. They reviewed Davenport's body cam footage from the shift, confirming he hadn't activated it during the traffic stop with Marcus Hayes, a policy violation in itself that further weakened his position. They formally logged Marcus Hayes' thumb drive into evidence and began a meticulous frame-by-frame comparison of the dashcam footage against Davenport's falsified report, highlighting every discrepancy, every lie. The GPS data definitively proved Marcus hadn't been weaving or speeding. The audio captured Davenport's hostility and Marcus's calm compliance, directly refuting the obstructive claim. News of Davenport's sudden suspension spread quickly through the precinct grapevine. Rumors flew. Was it excessive force? Corruption? Nobody knew the specifics yet, but the involvement of IA and the abruptness of the action signaled something major. Davenport, known for his arrogance and borderline conduct, didn't have many allies, but the blue wall instinct created an undercurrent of nervous tension. If Davenport could be pulled off the street so suddenly, who else might be vulnerable? The Tway. IA commander, briefed by Miller, made the necessary notifications up the chain of command, including the chief of police and the city's legal department. The potential for the dashcam footage to go viral was explicitly discussed. Plans were quickly formulated for a potential press statement, anticipating public outcry and media inquiries. They knew they couldn't suppress evidence this definitive. Their only viable strategy was to get ahead of it, control the narrative, as much as possible by demonstrating swift disciplinary action. The quiet complaint filed by Marcus Hayes, backed by irrefutable digital proof, had triggered an internal crisis, forcing the department to confront the actions of one of its own in a way that whispers and undocumented complaints rarely achieved. The department's attempt to control the narrative was short-lived. While Internal Affairs meticulously built its case against Davenport, Marcus Hayes, after consulting further with his attorney, made a strategic decision. They provided a watermarked, edited compilation of the most damning moments from the dashcam footage: the baseless accusation of weaving, Marcus's calm denial, Davenport's escalating hostility, and the explicit fabrication of the charges. To a trusted investigative reporter at a major local news outlet, they also shared it with a prominent civil rights organization known for advocating against police misconduct. The impact was instantaneous and explosive. The news story broke online first, featuring the chilling video clip. Within hours, it was the lead story on every local news broadcast, picked up by national outlets, and tearing through social media like wildfire. The hashtag #ChoreDavenportDashcam trended globally. Seeing and hearing the interaction firsthand, Davenport's undisguised bias, his blatant lies contradicted by the clear video and audio, provoked visceral outrage far more potent than any written report could. People weren't just reading about injustice, they were witnessing it in stunning 4K clarity. Public reaction was swift and furious. Protesters gathered outside police headquarters demanding Davenport's immediate firing and criminal prosecution. Calls flooded the mayor's office and city council members. The police department's carefully crafted press release about taking swift disciplinary action felt woefully inadequate against the tide of public anger fueled by the undeniable video evidence. The exposure put immense pressure on the department and the city. The focus quickly expanded beyond just Officer Davenport. Investigative journalists and civil rights groups began digging into his history, rapidly uncovering a pattern of prior citizen complaints, particularly from minority drivers, alleging similar biased stops and rude behavior. Many of these complaints, lacking the definitive proof Marcus Hayes possessed, had been dismissed or marked unfounded after cursory internal reviews. Now, viewed in the light of the dashcam footage, they painted a disturbing picture of an officer with a long history of unchecked misconduct, potentially enabled by a system unwilling or unable to hold him accountable without irrefutable evidence. The police chief was forced to hold multiple press conferences, facing pointed questions about Davenport's record, departmental training on bias, and the effectiveness of the internal affairs process. The mayor announced the formation of an independent task force to review police procedures, complaint handling, and training protocols, a common political maneuver, but one given real teeth by the sheer public pressure generated by the video. The police union, while obligated to provide Davenport with legal representation, found itself in an increasingly untenable position, unable to credibly defend actions so clearly captured on video. The dashcam footage became a symbol, a stark illustration of how racial bias can infect routine police interactions, how power can be abused under the color of law, and how technology can, in some instances, serve as a powerful equalizer, cutting through official narratives to reveal objective truth. It sparked broader conversations in the city about racial profiling, the limitations of body cams, which Davenport hadn't activated, the value of civilian recording, and the urgent need for genuine accountability within law enforcement. The systemic cracks papered over for years were suddenly exposed for all to see, forced into the light by one man's decision to install a state-of-the-art dashcam and another officer's fatal underestimation of the digital eyes watching him. The administrative and legal processes, accelerated by the public outcry and undeniable evidence, moved with unusual speed. The internal affairs investigation concluded swiftly, finding Officer Frank Davenport guilty of multiple policy violations, including neglect of duty for not activating his body cam, conduct unbecoming an officer, and most seriously, knowingly filing a false official report. Facing termination and potential criminal charges, Davenport opted to resign from the police force before the disciplinary hearing could formally fire him, a move that allowed him to avoid certain immediate consequences, but did nothing to shield him from the ongoing criminal probe led by the district attorney's office. which had taken over from the AG once jurisdiction was clear. The district attorney, armed with the dashcam footage, Marcus Hayes's clear testimony, and likely pressure from higher-ups aware of the case's public profile, filed criminal charges against the now former Officer Davenport for perjury and falsifying governmental records, serious felonies carrying potential prison time. The citations Davenport had issued to Marcus were, of course, immediately dismissed by the traffic court prosecutor upon reviewing the evidence, wiping Marcus's record clean of the fabricated offences. For Marcus, the dismissal of the charges and Davenport's resignation, followed later by a guilty plea to the criminal charges in exchange for probation and community service, avoiding a lengthy trial, brought a sense of validation, but not necessarily triumph. He felt relief that the system, when presented with irrefutable proof, had ultimately worked, albeit slowly and only after significant external pressure. He had successfully defended his name and exposed a corrupt officer, yet the experience left a bitter taste. He reflected on the immense advantage his technological foresight and financial ability to afford such a system had given him. What about those who couldn't afford high-end dashcams? What about those whose encounters weren't perfectly captured, leaving them trapped in a he-said-she-said battle against an officer's sworn testimony? He cooperated fully with the DA's office and the independent task force reviewing police procedures, providing insights from his experience and even technical advice on the potential for leveraging technology for greater accountability. He chose not to pursue a civil lawsuit, feeling that Davenport's removal from the force and the potential for systemic change were more important outcomes than personal financial compensation. He returned to his routine, driving home from work, attending meetings, debugging code, but something had shifted within him. The quiet anger had cooled, replaced by a more focused sense of civic responsibility. He became a low-key advocate for police reform, occasionally speaking at community forums, though avoiding the media spotlight, about the importance of objective evidence, civilian oversight, and addressing implicit bias in policing. He knew one dashcam video wouldn't fix everything, but it had undeniably made a difference in his case and sparked a crucial conversation in his city. He felt a quiet satisfaction knowing that his digital witness hadn't just vindicated him, it had contributed in its own small way to the ongoing arduous pursuit of a more just and accountable system. His dignity, momentarily stripped by Davenport's abuse of power, felt fully reclaimed, not just by the legal outcomes, but by his own refusal to be silenced by lies. Technology captured the truth. Officer Davenport wielded the power of the badge, the authority to stop, to question, to accuse, and ultimately to lie on an official report, expecting his word to be inviolable. He saw Marcus Hayes not as a fellow citizen, but as a target for his prejudice, someone whose reality could be rewritten with the stroke of a pen on a citation pad. He counted on the system, and Marcus's assumed powerlessness, to protect his fabrication. What he didn't count on was the unblinking eye of a 4K camera, live-streaming objective reality, creating an undeniable counter-narrative the moment the lies were uttered. For those of us who navigate a world where official narratives can often clash with lived experience, especially when dealing with authority figures, this story resonates deeply. We know how frustrating and frightening it can be to have your truth questioned, dismissed, or deliberately distorted. Maybe you've been in a situation where you felt unjustly accused, where your word felt insignificant against someone else's authority. Maybe you've witnessed an abuse of power and felt helpless to challenge the official story. Maybe you felt the chilling weight of knowing the truth, but lacking the proof to make it heard. But this story shows us that power dynamics are shifting. While badges and titles still hold authority, technology in the hands of ordinary citizens can serve as a potent force for accountability. Marcus Hayes's dashcam wasn't just a gadget. It was his digital witness, his equalizer. It demonstrated that truth, when captured clearly and undeniably, can dismantle carefully constructed lies, no matter how official they seem. It reminds us that standing tall isn't always about shouting louder. Sometimes it's about calmly presenting irrefutable facts. Power in this case came from foresight, preparation, and the quiet confidence of knowing the objective record was on his side. So if this story moved you, if it made you think about the intersection of technology, justice and bias, if it simply reminded you that truth can prevail even against formidable opposition, please don't keep it to yourself. Like this video. Share it with someone who needs to see that accountability is possible, that vigilance matters, and that sometimes the most powerful testimony doesn't come from a human voice, but from an unblinking lens capturing reality. Until next time, stay aware, stay empowered, and keep seeking the truth.